Right, Joe, I'm going to come back to you again for the next one for obvious reasons. Arsenal took a bit of stick a few years ago for celebrating fourth place as if it was a trophy. They sit ninth in the table currently, but I have a feeling that you're going to tell me that this has actually been a positive year for Arsenal, has it?
No, not at all. It's been an absolute catastrophe. Arsenal got Arsene Wenger was there too long in the end. I think every football fan around the world could say that. And while Unai Emery started very well, they got that appointment badly wrong. He became incredibly negative, and the start to this season, the back end of last season, I mean, Arsenal needed one more point in their last 7 games to finish fourth. In a bridging season, fourth is a good position for a top club. It's not a good position if you're doing it year in, year out, finishing fourth. Like if you're finishing second or third and you're in the title race, then it's not the end of the world. But finishing fourth isn't good. And anyone who supports a supposed Big Six club, and I'm talking, maybe Spurs fans stand out the most here, who are happy to just finish fourth. I mean, that's what got Arsene Wenger sacked in the end, because people were frustrated with that years before we started finishing fifth and sixth. We finished outside the top 4 places in his last 2 seasons, but I had lost faith in him after he bottled the title against Leicester in 2015-16, because it was just too many times of coming up short. And I mean, you asked what your first question to me now is this been a good season? No, it's not. I'm happy with Arteta. I think our squad is average at best. The thing that gives me hope is I think that aside from Liverpool and Manchester City, Leicester are punching above their weight. I think that the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United and Tottenham are average at best as well. So
well, we will come to those. Sorry, we will come to those clubs, but just to stay with Arsenal for a minute, I suppose what I meant by the question was more if you look at who's in charge of the club now, and if you look at some of the young players coming through, and maybe where the prospects for next season are, another year's gone off Mesut Ozil's contract, do you think that they could be in a stronger position at the end of this season than they were at the end of last season?
No, because Aubameyang will probably go. And the young players, while very promising, are still quite young. And I don't know how much influence they can be expected to have over 50 games in a season. I just think there are so many players who need to go. And there's just, right now with the lack of funds because of the coronavirus, they're going to have to be very, very smart in the transfer market to improve for next season. But that being said, so are the teams in and around them. And if Arsenal were to be able to finish fourth this year and next, then that will be an achievement, and it will give them some more pulling power. And some more much needed funds in the that's the biggest thing, getting that Champions League revenue in. That's been huge to miss out on, because we have a Champions League. I mean, Mesut Ozil's on silly money, £350,000 a week, and across the board we're playing the likes of Xhaka and Mustafi $100,000 a week each base salary. I mean, it's just a joke. We have a high class Champions League team budget, and we're not even in the Europa League last 16.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally understand your frustrations. Looking in from the outside, Conor, do you feel any optimism around Arsenal, or is it all pessimism?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. I think that's got to be the feeling around the club now. There is potential in a good young manager in Arteta. You know, he's someone who's a smart, articulate man. He got an amazing almost apprenticeship under Guardiola. So they've got someone who could be really, really capable. I think for the fans, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be looking, right, how much control is he going to be given over transfers? And most importantly, how much time is he going to be given? Because I don't think Arsenal can afford to keep chopping managers at this stage. Arteta is a young coach. This is his first proper job. You've got to give him a number of years, a number of seasons to get it right, but also get it wrong. And I think for Arsenal, it's got to be a case of making it very clear that even if results don't go right, this is our man. Arteta's here to build a club. You know, and I think Arsenal really, really crave stability at the moment, so they need to give it to him one way or another.
Yeah, I agree. Just to hop back in, I agree. I would give Arteta at least 3 full seasons after this half-season introduction to get things right. And with the youth in the squad and the amount of players who need to go and players that need to be brought in, it's only fair to give him that amount of time. If it's not working after that, if there's no progress, but I think there is progress, certainly in terms of the defence. He's almost fixed the defence. We're conceding next to no goals. There have been too many draws, but I'll take that in return for having had such an appalling defence and looked so out of sorts at the back. No structure whatsoever, no idea of where to set up midfield and I mean across the whole team. And he's brought a real structure to the team, which has been great to see.
I think that I definitely agree with both of you that he does need time at the club, and that's one of the kind of phrases that's thrown around whenever anybody takes over a job. I think that we've heard it before, though, at Arsenal with Emery coming in, that he needs time in the job, and we've seen it at United that, you know, he needs time at the club. And when sometimes, you know, while these teams are rebuilding or they haven't got the players in that they want, or for whatever reason the results don't always go their way, the fans can seem to turn quite quickly, and we've seen that at the Emirates this year. Stefan, do you think that the Arsenal fans will be patient with Arteta over a couple of years if the results aren't kind of what they're hoping for?
In a word, no. You know, it's hard to see. Like, and I think the guys are right. He absolutely does need time. He's coming from a really good base. I think obviously the issue around transfers, and there's probably going to be some key decisions around who they can bring in, who they can get rid of. There's probably a few guys in that squad who need to be shipped off. But I think at the end of the day, if they're 10th at Christmas next year, and it's, you know, you're not seeing any progress, and maybe Aubameyang's gone and they haven't maybe signed a star in his place, you know, I like Joe saying, it's really hard to see, you know, people sticking with it, buying for 3 years without any serious results. You talk about the Champions League revenue they're missing out on. You know, if there's no sign of getting that back to really start building yourself back up, I couldn't see fans being too patient from what I've seen in the last couple of years, certainly from the Arsenal fan base particularly.
There has to be a standard. You can't be bottom half of the table at Christmas next year. That's not good enough. So if he's in and around top 4, that's fine. If we finish 6th, 7th, that's fine. I'm not going to be losing the head over that. If you're where Unai Emery was leaving us, that's not good enough for any top club. You can't have your club in the bottom half of the table at Christmas.
Is the biggest issue at Arsenal not out of his control, though? I mean, the recruitment and the contract situation at the club, even during Wenger's time there, has been an absolute joke. With the owners getting involved in transfers, different directors of football, different heads of recruitment, managers, everybody seems to have different opinions over what players need to come and go from Arsenal. And it seems that the club is moving in 3 different directions at the same time, all of the time. Joe, would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. So on the contracts, that was Wenger and Ivan Gazidis, who was the chief executive for 10 years. They handled contract extensions. Wenger decided that more players would start running down their contracts. So he started to develop a very lax attitude towards player contracts, which was obviously a big mistake. And it saw some of Arsenal's best players over the past 10, 15 years leave the club, either on free transfers or for cut price deals, and often to rivals. This definitely played into the fact to his sacking. Sorry, Rafe, what was the second part of your question?
I was just asking, was that not the issue was recruitment? Was that not out of Arteta's hands? Surely if that issue is not solved, the club isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, so now there's Edu Gaspar, who's the technical director, who's kind of in charge of the scouting. And then there's Rahul Sandhya, who's the director of football, who would be in charge of the who would then be Edu's boss. And he's in charge, basically in charge of the contracts and stuff, and the key part of the negotiations. So I think the scouts bring players to Edu. Edu brings players to, Arteta gives them a list of who he wants. Then the scouts bring players to Edu. Then Edu brings those players to Raul. And then Raul then tells Arteta, these are the options that you have. It's very long-winded, but it's what's happening at most European clubs. What's key for me is that Arteta is involved very closely in this process, and I think that was a key part of what he was saying in his contract negotiations, and why the deal took so long to get over the line. From what I've read about it, is that he was saying that it's absolutely fundamental for him to be able to have a say in player transfers. There was obviously a big disagreement between Unai Emery and the directors about him wanting to bring in Zaha, and the directors going and bringing in Pepe. And I think Arteta would have said that that's the sort of thing that can't happen for him. He needs to be given a bit more control than his predecessor was.